Oh, you can't get too upset at this, man. You can't. Okay, look, I know Canadiens fans, Canucks fans are gonna kill me because I'm making this video, but there are opportunities here. Straight up. Today we're going over to the Pittsburgh Penguins and a beat post made by DKPittsburghSports.com by Taylor Haas, who went out there and posted this yesterday, an exclusive piece. Amid their inexcusable loss, the word is that the Pittsburgh Penguins could be seeing some trade soon. I'm going to go out there and leave this article in the description. Haas does a great job going out there and giving the scoop, not just on the Pittsburgh Penguins hockey team and what they're doing day to day, because yesterday they got smoked by the Dallas Stars, 7-1 loss, but the crazy part is they were down 6-0 after the first period. Yeah, that's ridiculous. How are you going to let in 6 goals in one period? In the first period, nevertheless. By the way, just kind of a side note there, anybody in fantasy this week who has any Dallas Stars players, please let me know how you're feeling that Jason Robertson, Wyatt Johnston, these guys didn't do anything pretty much in the first period, points-wise. Meanwhile, you had Mason Marchment getting a 5-point game, Miro Heiskanen finally starting to get his groove on, Jamie Benn getting some points, and Tyler Seguin with the legacy right there too. What are your thoughts on that? Just curious. For all you J-Rob owners in the fantasy world, how do you feel about that game? Anyways, let's go over and talk about this article published by Haas, because there's a really interesting scoop as to where the Penguins could be going after this game, after this bad stint of play, maybe even after this season. So, let's go out there and read this. There are a whole bunch of comments made by Crosby and Marcus Pettersson. There's not much to say when it's 6-0. We just gave in. Pettersson said, "That's indisputable. The Penguins are capable of competing as they did against the contending Capitals, but such showings are rare, as seen in their 6-9-2 record and defensive metrics, and they've already appeared bound for a third consecutive spring out of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So what now? The Penguins won't go full rebuild until Crosby retired. He's earned that, but this cannot continue. And that sentiment, from what I'm hearing, runs to the top of the team's hockey structure." Take a look at this update. A league source told Haas earlier this week that Kyle Dubas has made it known to other teams that everyone is available except for 87. And while Dubas has done well to replenish the pool with picks and prospects over the past year or so, the objective of any near-future moves wouldn't be to add more futures. Rather, it would be to acquire actual players back, since this isn't a tear-it-down-to-the-studs rebuild yet, as Dubas likes to say. He remains committed to trying to win with at least Crosby. Ownership made that promise to Crosby over the summer that the Penguins would be better this season. Also, everyone but Crosby being available tracks with what else is known about the plans for the foreseeable future. The article then goes out there and talks about some of the names. There are guys like Marcus Pettersson, for example. There are prospects, younger dudes that are also in the mix. And then Haas writes here at the bottom, of course, not everyone but Crosby can actually be traded. In addition to Crosby, Gino, Letang, Rust, and Carlson all have complete no-movement clauses. And while one could assume someone like Carlson might be willing to waive that clause to go to a contender, it's hard to imagine that many contenders both have a need in the cap space for someone like Carlson and his $10.5 million cap hit for 3 seasons. 7 more players have various levels of limited no-trade clauses, including one of the 3 goaltenders on the roster in Tristan Jarry. Man, what a bad player to have a no-move clause, or a no-trade clause, or some modified version of that. Anyways, what I wanted to do in this video was talk about some of the guys up top. Of course, Malkin, Letang. These guys have no move clauses, they have protection, they have decisions as to where they can get traded, if they even get traded at all. But I wanted to bring up my 2 favorite teams, the Vancouver Canucks and the Montreal Canadiens, for 2 reasons. Firstly, for Montreal, this allows us to open that door to the Kris Letang trade conversation once again. And for Vancouver, with all of the buzz around Patrick Allvin being there, in and around his former team and his former players, I wanted to get some discourse going as to some of the guys that Pittsburgh has that Vancouver could potentially be interested in as well. Let's start out with Montreal. So Kris Letang obviously is the big name here. Everybody's talking about him as an option, not necessarily because he would be a good option, but because there were rumors linking him to Montreal earlier this offseason. Apparently he requested a trade, And then he said that he didn't, and there was an entire dispute going on there amongst NHL fans and the like. Letang this season has 6 points in 17 games, on pace for about 29 points on the season. Yikes. That is not what Kris Letang is normally capable of. Now, to Letang's credit, he's not overpaid like Erik Karlsson is. Okay, maybe he's a little bit overpaid compared to his 29-point pace production, but he's only making $6.1 million a year till the end of 27-28. This is a guy who, if you retain 50% salary, $3.05 million, that's actually pretty reasonable for Kris Letang, especially if you buy into the idea that the 37-year-old could bounce back to 51-point potential or 68-point potential like he had 3 seasons ago, in 21-22. Letang has been a monster for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he's been very consistent throughout every part of his career, spare the past 2 or so years. So if there's any point, I'd say, for Kris Letang to be okay with some sort of a move to Montreal does sound pretty enticing, considering they could use the support on defense. Now, as we had spoken about in previous videos, I don't think Letang is really the guy that would make the most sense here. He would make sense as a legacy pick, like if you wanted to go with all the Quebec guys and bring them together for a last hoorah season, like, okay, that works, but like, is that really helpful for the Canadiens? We just made a video 2 hours ago talking about how making some sort of a panic trade for a big name might be dangerous, according to Elliot Friedman. So, obviously, if Kris Letang wasn't French, and if there weren't these trade rumors linking him to Montreal earlier in the summer, we wouldn't be talking about this here today. But I did think it was interesting enough to bring it up, considering his name has been tossed out there. Same thing you could say about Evgeni Malkin. Yeah, his entire situation is also interesting because he's paid a lot of money too. I'm not going to say overpaid. He's definitely in that same realm, considering he's making literally the exact same $6.1 million AAV salary till the end of 25-26. But Geno Malkin, at 38 years old, has 18 points in 17 games this season. He is on pace for 87 points. He had 83 just 2 seasons ago. Last year he had 67. So Malkin, who currently leads the Penguins in points, is technically a guy whom, if you wanted to say, could work in a trade, maybe he works. If the Canadiens need a second-line center, maybe Geno's the guy, who really knows. Let's switch gears over to Vancouver, end this video off with a short commentary on them, because for the Vancouver Canucks, I'd say that a lot of those same ideas could apply here. Not Evgeni Malkin, I don't think the Canucks need any center help here, but right-handed D. There is Marcus Pettersson in Pittsburgh. There is Kris Letang in Pittsburgh. Obviously, the idea of acquiring a third Pettersson in the Vancouver Canucks organization is intriguing. I say third because you've got 2 Eliases already in there. But Marcus Pettersson is a name that was linked to Vancouver in other rumors, other sort of talks around the city as guys that the Canucks could target. I'm still thinking about Letang, though. Like, if the Canucks really wanted a guy who could provide an offensive punch on the right side, Letang, I still want to believe in this dude. I don't think that the fallout here in terms of points is as drastic as the reduction rates would suggest it is. I think it's just a combination of the Pens not really playing their best and power play time and Karlsson being given a whole bunch of minutes and him being potentially the guy supposed to be leading that charge. I don't know, man. I think Kris Letang can be a lot better than what he's showing, and Vancouver is the team to potentially get that spark up. I would like to see that experiment try itself out. Now, if you want to talk about Marcus Pettersson, yeah, of course, he's there too. He's probably a little bit more stable than Letang, but he would probably cost more, in my opinion at least. His contract isn't as expensive, he is a lot younger, and he actually does have more points than Kris Letang does this season. It's just Letang has the benefit of being the guy that he has been for the past 20 years or so. He has that longevity, and you gotta decide, this season, is it really just the team playing poorly as a whole that's leading to this decline for production, or is Letang really just that washed, and is Marcus Pettersson that much better than him at playing hockey at this stage in their careers? So, for me personally, I'm thinking about Letang and Pettersson for Vancouver. If you're a Canadiens fan, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Letang and Evgeni Malkin? Yeah, trade protection is going to come into this as well. Would these teams be interested in any respect of going to Montreal? Geno, I don't know. Kris Letang, who really knows? And for Vancouver, it's a completely other story, but I still do think that NMC will need to be explored in some capacity. So, could you see the Habs or the Canadiens going after these guys? Let me know in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And Bye.